Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Enumeration Security YouTube video. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Brooklyn99 on TryHackMe. So there's two ways to solve this box. So we're going to go through both ways of how to go about solving it. This is a easy difficulty. So let's grab our IP address and get started by doing a basic Nmap scan. So we're going to do a sudo nmap tac which does 1 through 65535 on the ports. We're going to do a tac sc for default scripts, tac sv for versions, tac t4 to do thread number 4, which will just boost our scan a little bit. Paste in the IP address, and then we'll do a tac vvv for very verbose. Once we put in our sudo, we could see that there are a few ports. And if you know these ports, you'll know that 21 is FTP, 22 is SSH, and 80 is HTTP. So we're going to head on over to our second terminal here, and we're just going to do FTP into this box, and we're going to pray that they have anonymous access by just typing in anonymous, and then again anonymous within the password field. And we could see that there is a login. So we accessed it, and looking at it, we see that there is a note to Jake. So we can just quickly grab this by doing a get note to jake.txt, and this is going to extract that file onto our local system. So now when we do note to jake.txt, we could read it. So from Amy, Jake, please change your password. It is too weak and Holt will be mad if someone hacks into the 99. So there's three things here. Number one is we have a user named Amy, Jake, and Holt, and we see that Jake has a pretty weak password. So when it comes to seeing something like that, we could take a first look at the HTTP. So we'll head on over to our browser and we will paste it on in here, and we could see that it is just a pretty big image. That's really all it is. We could try to go into the page source and see, and it looks like there is a hint here for Steganography, which we will get into in the second portion, where we're going to do the entire box again, but on a different scale, where we try to hack Holt instead of Jake. So let's stick to Jake. We can head on back to our terminal, and what we could do is use something called Hydra. And Hydra essentially allows you to perform brute force on a online service, whether it be SSH, whether it be SMTP, anything you can really think of, you can basically brute force it. So we're going to just move this up a little bit, and we're going to get this command situated. So we're going to do a Hydra tac L, which is going to be the username, and we're just going to put Jake here. We're going to do a tac capital P, and this is going to be our word list. So we're going to do user share word list, and then we'll do a rocku.txt, and we will paste in our IP address, as well as put the protocol that we want to brute force, which in this case, it's going to be SSH. So when we run it, we could take a quick second. So it's going to start brute forcing Jake's login, and as you could see, it did retrieve the password. So we can copy this password and log in as Jake. So we could do Jake at, and then we could put in the IP address, save it, and we'll type in yes, and we will paste in the password into SSH. And this is a stabilized shell. In previous episodes of TryHackMe that we saw, we had to get a reverse shell, which was not stable. In this case, because we're logging in as SSH, completely stable, fine. We don't need to go through the whole Python PTY stuff because we do have already a stable shell. If we do an ls, we could take a look to see if Jake has anything in his system. And it looks like besides .ssh, there's really not a whole lot going on. We can take a look at the bash history just to see, but we won't be able to actually access it because the permissions are set to root only can read and write. So we won't be able to see any commands that he has put in here. We can go on and look at some of the file system. So let's take a look at home, and we can see what we suspected originally, that there were going to be 3 different users. So let's go over to Holt because Amy was concerned about Holt, and we could take a look and see that there is a user.txt file. Let's try to cat that out, and we do retrieve that. So let's quickly paste it on into TryHackMe. All right, so let's head back on over to our terminal. And let's see what else we have. So we have a nano.save, and let's see if we can access nano.save. Looks like we don't have any permissions to do so. Do we have any permissions to do anything else? And it looks like Holt has access to everything, so we're not going to be able to do anything of that nature. Something that you can also do when it comes to knowing a user's password is you could do a sudo tackl, and this is going to showcase all the commands that you're allowed to do. Now, because it says all no password, that means that we don't even need a password for root, and we can simply execute this as sudo. So with that, we know already we have to go to GTF open. So let's head on over to GTF open and paste in less, because that was the command that we saw right here that we need to be working with. So as we can see here, it does say that the functions, there is a sudo command that we can use. And it looks like all you have to do is sudo etc profile and then do a bang/bin/sh. So let's do just that. So we'll paste this on in, click on send, and then we will do a bang/bin/sh. And as we can see, who am I? It looks like we are root, which is perfect. So now we can just cat out /root root.txt, and we now have the flag. So let's paste it on into TryHackMe. So that's it for the initial way of doing this box. Now let's take a look at how we can do it a different way. So we're going to head back on over to this page, and we saw before that there was something having to do with steganography. So we do need to copy over this specific file. So we'll just copy this on over if we can get the image. Let's just see if we can even open the image in a different tab, and it looks like we can. So let's save this image over to our downloads. That's completely fine. And we're going to quickly X out of our original because we don't need this anymore. So we'll just delete this completely. And the first thing that you do when it comes to steganography is you're going to want to use a tool called steghide. And if you don't have this tool, just do apt install steghide, and you have a bunch of different options. Now, this only does work, I believe, for JPEG files. And because this Brooklyn99 file is a JPEG file, which is why we're allowed to do it. So what we could do is we can go about extracting information or data from this file. And you could do that by doing steghide, extract, tacsf, and then put in whatever information you want. So in this case, because we titled it Brooklyn99, it's going to be Brooklyn99. When we click enter, it looks like we do need a passphrase. So we could just try some basic ones like password. And that looks like it's not the passphrase. We could look something like Brooklyn99 and see if that works, but it also doesn't. So we're going to need to brute force the passphrase that is protecting this file. So what we're going to have to do is use something called stegcracker. And we can download that by just doing sudo apt install stegcracker. We'll do a cali on that, and it'll quickly install. You could just use stegcracker to start, and all you need is a file as well as the word list. So again, our file is going to be the Brooklyn99.jpg file, and then we're going to use the user share word list and then rocku.txt file. And this is quickly going to brute force all the different kinds of passwords onto the file and see if we can retrieve the password associated with the JPEG. And we can see that the file that was written out, it went through a bunch of different passwords, and it came back with admin being the password. So if we head on over to steghide and we press enter again, if we put in admin, we could see that it extracted a note.txt. When you access the note.txt, it shows you Holt's password. So fluffydog12 at 99. So we could do an SSH on Holt at, and then again, we are going to need our IP address, which is 10.201.93.160. Again, we're going to have to paste in the password. And now we have access to Holt. And again, you could just use a user.txt, and that works. Again, you could also do a sudo tackl, and this will give us access to additional information. This time it's going to be nano instead of less. So again, head back on over to GTF opens. We're going to go to nano this time. Click on sudo. And as we can see, we're just going to do a sudo nano. We're going to do a control R, control X, and then this command reset sh1 whatever. Okay, so let's see if this will work. So we're going to do a sudo nano, and let's take a look here about what we're going to be doing. So we're going to do a control R. We're going to be doing a control X, and then we're going to execute a command, and we're going to paste in this command here. So let's just paste that on in. Click enter, and it looks like we do have a shell It's a little bit weird to read, but if you just keep pressing enter a little bit, we see that we are root now. And again, you could do a /root, root.txt, and paste it on into your TryHackMe. So it's pretty cool to see that there's two different ways to compromise a box. This is a great example of a little bit about steganography. You don't really see it too often in the real world, but there are challenges on TryHackMe and Hack the Box that do require you to do a little bit of steganography, especially on CTF challenges that are full Jeopardy style, similar to the script CTF that's been going on, the Huntress CTF, the Nmap CTF. All these kinds of CTFs require some form of steganography or digital forensics, which will help you progress in the CTF, gain points, all that fun stuff. But overall, a pretty easy box. We went through the methodology of how to go about enumeration, looking at FTP, SSH, again, doing basic enumeration on the Linux system that was compromised, finding a sudo privilege escalation, and then escalating our privileges over to root. If you did enjoy this video, let me know in the comment section down below. And please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.